Hi, I'm Brad Power, and this is Brian, we have to check. Is this the 1 year anniversary? We're close to our 1 year anniversary of the Prostate Cancer Lab webinar series.
The 23rd. I looked yesterday.
Okay. We've got a
Yeah.
couple more to go. All right. So we'll declare the official 1 year anniversary then. Today we're honored to have Kathy Spinner with us. She's someone I met at the Personalized Medicine Coalition conference probably 4 years ago. And was very intrigued by the work that she was doing at that time in exercise, which she will explain. And recently she's done a pivot and is working on a very interesting medical device, a intelligent port. So for when people are getting infusions, sometimes they get a port, and this port then also measures various vital signs that you can do, since it's stuck in your chest there. So here are the disclaimers, and then I'll turn it over to Kathy. This is not medical advice, and you should consult your medical team if you have issues or need to deal with a medical issue. And second, this will be made public, so everything that you say will be publicized on our website. If you don't want to be publicized, turn off your screen, put on an anonymous name, and don't say anything. Otherwise, assume that you will be publicized. What I do with the notes is I always run them by everybody who speaks to make sure that they were accurately captured. So I won't publish anything without your say-so, but you should know that this will be made public. This is sort of a public conversation. We have other meetings, which Brian organizes once a month, that are our confidential patient-only meetings, but these are public. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kathy.
All right. Thank you, Brad. And very good to meet everyone. Thanks for your time today. I'll try to make it conversational meeting and also try to hit on the things that are most important to you, where you can find the most value. So my name's Kathy Skinner. I come to the cancer space because the way I describe it is cancer came to my house over 20 years ago, where my dad sadly was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and he passed away. And his journey inspired me to work in the cancer space. And I've done 3 startups, bringing different types of products and services to cancer patients and survivors. And the first one that I started was called The Art of Well. And that's what I'm going to be bringing to you today. It's a research-based protocol for cancer patients and survivors. And I say research-based because a woman named Katie Schmitz, I call her the queen of cancer exercise, back in the mid 2000s, like 2007, 2005, 2007, she started doing research on the impact of exercise on cancer patients and survivors. And she did a study called the PALS trial, PALS. She started here at the University of Minnesota and then migrated it to the University of Pennsylvania, which is a better move because she had a more diverse population of participants. And what she did was studied how moving weight, strength training could benefit breast cancer patients and not trigger their lymphedema. And so lymphedema for breast cancer patients happens in the upper extremities, and then for prostate cancer patients can happen in the trunk and the lower extremities. And I wanted to make sure we touch on that today and see if that's an area of concern. So I worked for over 10 years face-to-face with cancer patients, men, women, all different types of cancer stages, in treatment, post-treatment, metastatic disease. And I would meet with people face-to-face in their homes, or I'd meet with them at a fitness studio, yoga studio, Pilates studio, and we do a cancer exercise protocol together. And the focus of the protocol was to help people build their muscle mass, bone density, deal with pain, deal with fatigue, all based on the notion of moving weight in a systematic way can actually help people get stronger during and after cancer treatment. And then there's a whole bunch of research that shows what exercise can do to improve quality of life. And in some cases and some cancers, it can actually have an impact on recurrence of disease. Not all cancers, but on some. So I wanted to, before I jump in, we're going to do an exercise protocol today. I know some of you are physically active and some of you not so much. And some of you just need a kick in the pants to get going. So thank you for being honest and raising your hand there. So before we get started, it'd be helpful for me to understand from you, what are maybe one or two things that you love about exercise, you hate about exercise, or you go, exercise what? So maybe if a couple of people could jump in and say, where are you at? What are you doing? What's working, and where do you have gaps, and where do you need support?
I can start. It always seems like it's later in the day. I was like, today I'm going to work out in the morning, and there's interruptions and laziness, and then it shifts to later in the day. And like yesterday, I ended up only lifting a few weights.
Recording in progress.
And I need to focus. I bought an elliptical machine, and I get on it every 3 days and do a HIIT, high intensity 2 minutes segments 8 times, where 30 seconds is max and 90 seconds is recovery. It's Dr. K, Kevin from Abundant You. He's engaging, he's fun. And during the 90 seconds, the music goes really loud and so, yeah. And then, during the 30 seconds, and then you relax, and it gets my heart to about by the end, it kind of ladders up, gets it to about 150, 155. So I try and get my heart up there, but I'm all on board to listen to what you said or what you're going to present. I'm excited about it. And Russ is in a freaking gym, man.
I know.
I think he's lifting while we're talking.
He should be.
Super impressive.
I work out a lot. Today I'm going to do the middle of 60 minutes of my first workout. My second workout is 30 minutes of my third one at night. I'm one of those guys, if I work out late at night, I can't sleep. So my third one's only 6 minutes.
Dude, way to go.
I've been working out my whole life, and it's something I really enjoy. And one thing that I don't think gets enough attention is the brain benefits, the outlook benefits. When I don't work out, if I stop for a couple of weeks, I start to get depressed and everything's blue. And the way I describe it is I work out and everything looks brighter.
Yeah, you're addicted.
I think that's
to
maybe the encalphins and endorphins too. Yeah, I think probably the endorphins more than the encalphins personally.
Sure. So, and I think Russ brings up a good point to the conversation, is that you can hit a threshold where you actually miss exercise. And some of you will be going, what? But
it becomes a habit.
Yes, but it becomes a habit, and it becomes an essential part. Like, I have to exercise frequently because I'm under a lot of stress. And that's the only way for me to manage my stress. And I injured my knee in November playing volleyball, and I was in a dark place because I couldn't process my stress. I was worried about my knee recovery, and I had to think differently. So there's some challenges out there, and there's some benefits to.
Can I ask a quick question? So as people talk about this, how many people are on hormone therapy? So I'm curious that I'm 14 months into it. I'm like Russ a little bit. I've worked out my whole life. My doctor told me that weight training is good without any testosterone. It's hard to build muscle. So I try to do 3 or 4 sets of 30 push-ups a day. I do planks. I do dumbbells, not really heavy weight. I try to walk 2.5 miles on the treadmill each day. I play pickleball and I play golf. And about 130 years ago, I played small college basketball. I played competitive squash. So I like to compete, but I have found since I've been on hormone therapy, it's a challenge. I get tired much easier. I still work out, but it's not as easy to do. And part of that, I'm 66 on top of that. So it's not as easy to do all those things, but the hormone therapy kind of beats you up a little bit.
Yep.
Can I jump in real quick on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was on hormone therapy. Now I'm on bipolar androgen therapy, but in bipolar, a whole different ballgame. But hormone therapy for me, I found a muscle loss like you. I started doing something called SARM, selective androgen receptor modulators. That's very experimental, though. when I was on straight hormone therapy, what I found, the only thing I could do is I could break things up. I could work out intensely for like maybe 10, 15 minutes at a time. I'd get wiped out. So if I worked out 3 times a day, 15-minute chunks or 10-minute chunks, even, I felt like, hey, I've done something, and I'd feel better.
Yeah.
And even low intensity, like walking, or for me, bicycling, slow bike, and that made me feel a lot better. And I did lose a lot of muscle mass, but I had a lot of strength. I kept a lot of strength, and I kept a lot of energy.
Yeah. So Dale, just words of encouragement. Almost everybody here is on some form of hormone therapy, and what you're experiencing isn't unique. Everybody feels that way, but I would just, as you're doing, just continue to fight through it. And in terms of losing muscle mass, yeah, you'll lose muscle mass for sure, but you can do surprisingly well. So Russ is a great example, and there are others that are really very focused on weightlifting training. So you're going to be fine.
Since I'm on hormone therapy, I play golf, and I petitioned my club to hit off the red tees, but I got denied. So. Golf.
For me, I don't want to go into a little story, but it would be perfect. But I was in your shoes 16, 18 months ago. Felt like I fatigued and couldn't work anymore. And I really think I was wearing a lot of my mental limitations. So now 18 months later, after I was feeling fatigued and I can't lift heavy, or, I just don't have it. I'm probably physically less fit, or, just as fatigued, but mentally, I think I've stepped up, and I encourage you to as well. Prior, it's like some of it's just mind. And if I look back 18 months ago, I could have been doing a lot better than I did because of my, I don't know, lack of motivation, or I don't want to say self-pity, or whatever it was. I wasn't working out as hard as I am now, and I'm not in any better shape. I'm not in a better place, but except for my ability to take on more and just start believing I can. So I encourage you to dial in, and probably Kathy's going to inspire us right now.
Well, it sounds like you are in a different place, Rick. You've made great progress.
Maybe I'll just add a comment or / question for the community. I have metastasis all over my bones, and probably many of you do. And because of that, and concern with the fragility of the bones, I was basically told that any hard exercises are kind of off limit. So I used to love skiing, biking. Not much of a golfer, but even I was told I shouldn't be golfing because just the swing movement can be impactful. So anyways, I was just curious how others have dealt with, bone metastasis issues and dealing with fragility, a concern around fragility of bone, because the last thing we want is some type of a fracture in our bone structure.
Yeah.
So I've been limited to, mostly walking, hiking, and, very light kind of band-based strength training, so to say.
And then
and I would just add, I'm kind of in the same situation, but for a little bit different reason. I have familial neuropathy also, which has created some significant muscle loss, primarily in my lower left leg. So it can affect my balance a little bit. So I have to be just thoughtful about what I can do. I can bike, I can walk for an hour a day. I can do squats, but nothing really very active, and certainly nothing at all involving running.
Yeah. And then does anyone on the call dealing with lower extremity lymphedema?
Okay. So I am not dealing with that currently, but I just had surgery 3 weeks ago. And by the way, I'm chomping at the bit to get exercising again because I'm a huge exerciser. But I'm worried about lymphedema. So I guess my question is kind of more on like the preventative side, if there's anything to do there, right?
And any other gentlemen on the call have lower extremity lymphedema?
I'm not familiar with the lymphedema term.
Okay.
I have neuropathy from a trial that I was on. And sometimes my legs feel good and sometimes they feel like a couple of tree trunks. But I've not, until you mentioned it, I have not heard that term. So
okay. That's good news. It's quite common in breast cancer for when you have lymph node resection, but it's not unheard of in prostate cancer. And it's a swelling of the lower extremities because the lymph nodes were removed and they're not working effectively. So protein-rich fluid gathers in different parts of the body, and lower extremity lymphedema is really hard to manage. So if you don't have it, knock on wood, let's hope that continues. So let me take about just 10 minutes. I want to present some exercises to you. You're welcome to move with me if you wish. And it's going to be exercises that are, so my claim to fame when I work with cancer patients face-to-face is I'm the queen of modifications. So if you're someone who, like Amit, is limited in their movement because of bone metastasis or at risk for falls, then I can modify the exercises and make them more appropriate for someone at risk, or I can make recommendations and take it to the other extreme on how to make them more challenging. And then this deck that I'm going to be going through, I'll make available to Brad, and you can take as much or as little as you want with the physical activity that I'm going to be describing today. So one case in point is there's lots of reasons to exercise, and based on the conversation of this crowd, there's no reason to try to convince you that it's good, but how to do it, how to be consistent at it is one of the challenges. And so one thing I'm hearing gentlemen speak about doing activity, but maybe it's on your own. And maybe there'd be a higher level of accountability or support if you had a buddy or a friend or a partner to help you meet up and do some kind of a group activity. And maybe one of the things is, so I think it was Eric who talked about recently having surgery and like chomping at the bit to get back. Well, people who really like to exercise and need to use it to manage their stress or feel like they're in control, which is a beautiful thing, actually have to make sure that they don't start too soon and too fast and cause damage or make things worse. So Eric, start slow and go slow, and you'll avoid an injury, please. That's
I'm trying. It's taken all my self-discipline.
Find someone who's going to sit on you and have you rein it in, or maybe learn something that's brand new that you've never tried before. For example, I shared earlier that I injured my knee, and for years I was a fan of strength training and walking and cycling and doing Pilates. And I had always thought, oh my God, yoga, that's just lame. Like I take a yoga class and then I feel like I have to go work out. Well, hello, with a knee injury, yoga turned out to be the perfect thing, but I had no expertise. I had to learn it from the beginning. So it forced me to go slow. And it also awakened me to the gaps in my motor pattern and how where one leg was much weaker and where I had balance issues and where I had tightness in my hips and tightness in my spine. So now I've become a big fan of yoga. So think about something, Eric. Maybe it's yoga or Pilates or cycling or something that you haven't done before that might be a way to introduce you to something new where you have no choice but to learn it and learn it slowly. And that can be a welcome distraction. And I want to see the word distraction again, because I've worked with many, many cancer patients that have metastatic disease. And with the fact that you're looking at a limited time in your life, maybe not. I've worked with many cancer patients who found exercise to be a welcome distraction. So they're doing something that takes them out of their head, out of their daily lives, out of their appointments. And it allows them to do something where they feel competent and they feel like they accomplished something. I think of one woman in particular who, because she was dealing with metastatic disease, had to make choices every day where she was going to spend her energy. And she always made exercise, even a modest amount of it, a priority because she knew she would feel successful. And that was her purpose. So I'm going to take us through a couple exercises, and I see Rick, yes? Or someone? And someone's on mute.
Russ has raised his hand.
Yeah, could I throw in real quick? Sorry to interrupt you, but you mentioned hurting yourself by getting back too soon after like a surgery or something. That after RP, radio prostatectomy in 2018, that was me. I was chomping at the bit to get back 2 weeks later since the catheter was out. Anyway, what I found, I could do upper body exercises light after like 3 weeks against the doctor's recommendations. I didn't have a problem with those, but then I did squats and deadlifts like a month and a half later. And those tore me to pieces. Those opened up the whole thing again. So I had to lay off of those. So I still go kind of lighter on squats and deadlifts even to this day.
Yeah. And then I have a screen on my computer where I'm looking at my presentation. I don't see everyone's faces or hands. So just jump on in if you have a comment, please.
You can adjust the slider bar to allow to see everyone.
I can, but because I'm doing a presentation, I have a unique presenter screen. So thank you for the recommendation. All right, so here's the plan, and feel free to move with me if you want, but we're gonna do a few exercises, and I'm just gonna do them briefly and give you a couple helpful tips, all right? So everyone's seated, so wherever you're seated right now, come to the front edge of your chair. And Amit, this is one variation that I'm going to give you another option, okay? So I shared I'm the queen of modification, so I'm going to give you another thing to do for you personally. So if you don't have cancer in your spine or compressed discs, what you're going to do is a seated twist. And this is really a great way to relieve stress, whether you're an advanced exerciser or a new exerciser. But by sitting at the front edge of your chair, you can sit nice and tall, and what you're going to do is twist and use your hands to gently draw across and look behind you. And every time I work with someone to do this exercise, I always tell them to let their shoulders down. So this is how you know where your shoulders are. Bring them up to your ears, and then drop them down, and then twist. And then breathe through that exercise, and then reverse to the other side. And if you don't have any restrictions, keep doing that movement. But if you do have cancer in your spine or issue about bone metastasis, what I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to raise one hand up, and then you're going to gently arch and bend at the side body. So you're not twisting your spine, which is acceptable. And oh my gosh, how many shoulder impairments do we have, people? All right. So if you have a bad shoulder, keep your arm down and then just reach to one side and then to the other side. So this means you're not doing torque and twist on your spine, but you're still moving through the side body. Shoulder impairments, that should be a whole nother class. Not to make fun, but okay then. All right. Now, many people like to do upper body exercises, and as was shared by Russ and some others, you can do that even post-surgery. And to make sure that you take the lower body out of any exercise, and so you don't create any unplanned strain, you can take a resistance band, wrap it around your back, kind of like a shawl, and then you can do chest press and pushing away. You can also, if, for example, this seems too easy, you can convert it to a push-up against the wall or a push-up against the chair. And what I mean by that is you can take the chair and then you can bring your body down and push it away. So you can start at the wall, go to a chair, and then move to the floor with your knees down, move to the floor with your knees off the ground. So that's all getting to the upper body muscles. If a couple of you say, I don't have a lot of time, if you could do chest press or some kind of push-up, and if you're cleared through the lower extremities, some kind of a squat, you could do those two exercises. They cover a ton of muscle groups. So in terms of efficiency, squats and chest press are where you want to go. So here's some helpful tips around squats, and you can have a chair or not have a chair, but you want to have an athletic stance. You want to tap your toes because you want weight in the heels. And then from here, you're pressing your hips back because you want to activate your glutes and your hamstrings. So you're going to bring the hands forward for counterbalance, press the hips back, and you're going to be squeezing your backside pelvic floor. So reach and come tall. Now, if you want to progress this and make it harder, more challenging, you take weights in hand and just like grocery bags, and you press your hips back and you stand tall. So a couple things that are not helpful, dropping your chin, rolling your back, that stuff is not helpful. So hips go back, chest lifts up, and I cue your line of sight to look long. And by lifting your eyes, it helps throw everything else back into position. So I mentioned shoulder impairments. You guys are all really tight through your upper extremities. So you can start with a band or you can start with a free weight, but you can raise forward and you can raise side. Now, if you do have an impairment, you can make it more simple. You can just do arm weight forward, arm weight side. You can progress it to make it a little more challenging by doing maybe a water bottle, something that's in your house. You don't have to run to the gym. You can start with two hands. Now, depending on your impairment, like I'm working with a gentleman now, and I go to his house twice a week, and he's got a bum shoulder. So we do no weight in one hand and light weight in the other, and that works out just great. So what I hope you'll see is that there's ways to do modifications for each exercise. So lunges are great if you do them correctly. And there's a way to start with doing the form correctly by using a chair. So if you have issues with balance, go ahead and grab a chair and then reach one leg back and bend both knees. You're looking for your head, shoulders, and hips to split in between both feet. And then you lift through that front leg. So this is called a reverse lunge, where the leg goes back and you come together. And as you get stronger, you can take your hand off your balance element, reach back, and come together. You can make the lunges more challenging by doing a forward lunge. And I feel like those are more challenging because people have more trouble with their knees. So you touch down through the front heel, bend both knees, push back through the front heel. That helps activate, again, the hamstrings and the glutes. So what I like to do with all the work that I do with cancer patients is make sure that you're doing the form correctly, because you already showed up and you're already willing to do the work. So let's make sure that you do this in a way that is helpful. Any questions so far?
No.
So I want to yes. Yes.
No questions. Sorry.
Okay. So I want to offer a way to make exercises much more challenging, and it's adding a balance element. So this is for this is for folks that are in a more advanced place. So for example, we'll take bicep curls. Now bicep curls, the easiest way you can do them is seated. you can take them to the next level and do them standing. Then to add challenge, you can stand on one foot, and then you do your balance and your biceps. So this is doing arms, core, balance, and brain. So for example, you could do that for bicep curls. You could do that for a row. You could do that for a raise. So there's all kinds of ways that you can make the effort more challenging by adding a balance element to it. So I'm going to go ahead and pause there. Like I said, I'll be able to share this deck with Brad. And there's a few more exercises embedded in there that you'll be able to take part in, as well as my contact information. But I wanted to go ahead and pause because I know that there's some other things that Brad wanted to make sure we get to today.
Thanks, Kathy. I really like those. You know, you've inspired me. Like, I sit at my computer a lot all day.
Yeah.
And I feel lethargic after doing it. I'm going to put some weights near the computer, and during those breaks, or sometimes during a call like this, I'll just maybe turn off my screen and stand up and do a few things just to keep me from being sedentary for hours on end. So that's been really helpful for me. And I think I don't know if anybody else has any good ideas, but I find that we know what we should do, but we don't do what we know we should do. And so figuring out how to work exercise into your daily routines for me is key. And sort of, you know, it's like people say they put their shoes by the side of the bed, you know, so they can go run in the morning, or whatever those tricks are, the reminders and just making it easier to do. I'd be curious if anybody here has any other tips or tricks that they've found that help them include exercise in their day.
Oh yeah, yes. Big thing I do, I sit in front of a computer a lot too. I have a standing work that works. I wish I could show you this if I could. See if I can zoom out enough to get it there.
Cool.
Can you see it? Okay, there's my workstation. Underneath it, gosh, I don't know if I can zoom out. Do you see the exercycle? Okay, you can see part of it. Okay, there's my workstation.
Yep.
There's my standing desk. And I'm just going to try to get out of the picture. Unfortunately, this is really small on here. There is my exercycle. So what I did is I bought an exercycle, I modified it, and I stuck it underneath my work desk. And now when I'm using my computer, I can just cycle away.
Yeah, that's helpful.
You're inspirational, bro.
I'm sorry?
You're inspirational, bro.
Thank you. I did that when I was on ADT, so I could study prostate cancer. I was new to the game then. I didn't know what I was really dealing with, and I could cycle away and feel better, get some energy.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a question about HIIT. Like, I kind of tried to stop doing what I used to do was just kind of unconsciously troll along what we used to call LSD, long, slow distance. And that was in college. We go with this LSD day, man. Okay. I've kind of gotten away from that because I've heard that it doesn't really do much like HIIT. So now I'm trying to HIIT with everything I do. Do you have any comments or suggestions?
Don't get hurt.
That's a risk always.
That's the biggest thing. But I think there's a lot of research that shows that small bursts of effort have a big impact. So I think that's a smart way to go. I'm thinking about what is that weekend warrior thing that people do? CrossFit.
Yeah, CrossFit.
Yeah,
CrossFit.
my daughter's a CrossFit junkie.
Yeah, but if you're a weekend warrior, it's an injury waiting to happen. So think about how to moderate it so that you can build up to that. And I think maybe one thing to really step out of your comfort zone is actually to find a workout buddy, is to find someone to hold you accountable and to make it more fun when you show up. And if you don't show up, someone cares. So I think that might be kind of a stretch assignment for some people to find someone to work out with.
I'll add a comment here about injuries. I mean, I've been an exerciser for decades also, and wanted to keep up intensity as I got older, even prior to cancer. And I noticed I was getting more like overuse injuries or tendonitis in joints and stuff. And one thing I've done that's been really successful with that is I almost always am wearing some kind of compression gear when I exercise, either tights or even like a full body shirt, or if I lift heavy, knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, something like that, to protect the joints while I'm working. And it's, I mean, of course, I'm a little bit more careful as I've gotten older, but that has helped also with just giving those joints support and keeping them warm in terms of injury things, right?
If I may offer, the reason that I taught a research-based exercise protocol that focused on strength and balance is if you build connectivity and strength around the joints, then the world opens up.
I was just thinking I really liked your bicep balance idea there. And I like, as soon as I'm out of surgery, it's a perfect way for me to progress again with lighter weights and introducing that stability into it. So
yes, and it's great for your brain.
Yeah.
So Kathy, is there
EndoBoard and Abosu are really cool.
Yes, although I'm a fan of the blue side. People who stand on the black side are nuts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're a blue sider?
If you stand on the black side, it's like an ankle injury waiting to happen.
Oh, I've been
stand on the blue side, people.
Good tip. I never blue sided myself. So
it's harder too.
Kathy, so besides the presentation that you shared, is there like a bigger booklet of all different kind of exercises that you would share also, or how do we kind of get a broader set to pick and choose from, or figure that?
So the presentation I have to share with you has about 10 exercises, and then I'm happy to have a conversation with you. And there's also a way to find cancer exercise trainers in your zip code. So the American College of Sports Medicine has a certification called Cancer Exercise Trainer, and you can, it's called a Pro Finder. They have a tool there on their website. There's also a woman Andrea Leonard, who created a certification called Cancer Exercise Training Institute, CETI. And she has trained people around the country. And you can use her website to see if there's someone in your zip code. So there are people who have this unique training to work with cancer patients.
And I should put a plug in. We're going to have Carrie Winters-Stone on an upcoming meeting. And that's a Kathy connection. Thank you, Kathy, through Katie.
Yeah.
And she's based at OHSU. So this is news for you, Jeff. She's at OHSU and ran a program that Kevin Fordney participated in. So a clinical trial and research effort. So those in OHSU area, Jeff, could take advantage of that.
Yeah,
I'll send you an email to connect you with all so you can be the Portland community.
Exactly. So that's a great connection. So as much as I shared Katie Schmitz is the queen of cancer exercise, Carrie Winters-Stone is a protege or a second generation. She's a specialist in cancer exercise and bone health.
Amit, are you taking Prolia?
No. Well, what is that actually? I don't know. Rick, what did you?
It's bone strengthening.
Okay. Zometa. Is it kind of same as Zometa?
I don't think so. Different mechanism of action.
I see. Okay.
I helped discover the rank ligand, for crying out loud.
No, so I'm on Zometa infusions for bone strengthening, but I'll look into
Prolia. I also marketed it as Xgeva.
Yep. Yeah, it's a drug from Amgen. Yep. Yup. Carrie will know a lot about
So it's a prescription, or is it a supplement? It's a prescription.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
in some insurance companies, I was exploring that, and my insurance company wouldn't cover Prolia. It would only cover another infusion base.
Yeah, that's the main argument. Well, I did want to take just a couple minutes of your time to share with you what I've been working on since I was doing the cancer exercise work. Is this a good time now, Brad?
Yeah, please do. We've got 15 minutes.
Okay, thanks. So working face-to-face with a cancer patient back in 2016, she was telling me about, instead of doing better on cancer exercise, she actually was doing worse. And it was confusing to me. And she went to her physician and she found out that while the drug that she was on was fighting her cancer, it was also concurrently damaging her heart. So now she's still cancer-free 12 years later, but she's more at risk for cardiovascular disease. So she was telling me this story. It made me look at this chemo port that was implanted under her skin and think, why couldn't we know sooner that this drug was impacting her heart? And so I had this idea back in 2016, but always knew that I needed a team of scientists and researchers and physicians and engineers. And in fact, the same event where I met Brad in Boston is where I met my co-founder for this particular company. And she and I sat down next to each other for lunch. And I introduced myself and she introduced herself and she said, I'm a scientist. I'm like, I've been looking for a scientist. And so in May of 2020, we launched a company called NextGen Port. And I'll just give you briefly, we take a chemotherapy port. My screen might be a little small, but I'll do what I can. A chemotherapy port has almost always had this much real estate in it. And what we've done is we take microelectronics and optical sensors and embed it in the body of the port and make it smart. And what we're tracking is blood cell counts, heart function, and vitals. And as you know well, no one knows what's going on within a patient's blood until they drive to clinic and get their blood tested. And then a decision based on their blood counts of a go, no go for chemo is made. So what we're looking at is how to measure a patient's blood in between chemo visits as a way of assessing early signs of infection and determining readiness for next treatment. So while all of I'm sharing with you is hopefully encouraging, interesting, the way we'll use the port, use data, integrate with electronic medical records, and equip physicians to make decisions, the reality is we're probably 2 to 3 years away from commercialization. So we're in early stages, testing in animals, raising money from investors, and then building out the prototype. So I just wanted to take a minute to introduce you to what we're working on and see if you had any questions or ideas or connections. And we'll open it up for just a couple minutes on this topic of what I'm working on these days.
I guess the question is, does this require an FDA approval for it to be used, right? I mean, this is kind of right there with, people's blood streams and everything else. So where are you in the whole cycle?
Yes, that's a great question. So it is going to be an FDA Class 2 project, which means it's a 510K. And based on predicates in diabetes care and cardiac care, we have predicates. So this year, because we're doing animal models twice, we'll have enough design specifications to do a pre-submission to the FDA.
What is a predicate?
Something that exists before, like we can leverage pacemakers because they're implanted and they have a battery. Things like that. Anything that's kind of akin, because we don't have a direct predicate, because right now ports are dumb. They're not smart. They're titanium or pieces of plastic, and they're a delivery tool, right? The chemo goes in, blood comes out. That's all that they're leveraged for.
How is the I've got an Oura Ring that I'm holding up here. How does it's looking at, I think, looking at the veins and whether they're pulsing and thereby getting the heart rate and such. How similar is it to that technology, or what might be in my Apple Watch that sort of also can check for atrial fibrillation and that sort of thing?
So the most unique factor that we're bringing to healthcare is the ability to measure blood cells in the body in real time without requiring a patient to go to a lab. And so and this graph illustrates changes over time in neutrophil counts and looking for signs of febrile neutropenia. And then also delivering the things that your ring provides: body temperature, heart rate, oxygen levels. So those are off-the-shelf sensors that we can put on the smart port that aren't patent protected or unique secret sauce. But what it does is it creates a whole robust data package. So a physician can say, they can look at blood cell counts, at heart function, at vitals, and put it all together and enable them to make a decision based on the data findings.
Can you measure PSA?
Not yet.
Is it sort of like measuring CBC and parts of CMP, but just kind of a real time instead of discrete?
Yes, exactly. So, like, for example, a person—
I can see that'd be really helpful.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I can imagine it'd be very helpful, especially how you respond to exercise in the immediate term, real time versus a delayed snapshot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Cortisol. Well, can it measure cortisol?
Not yet. Right. So if you've ever brought anything through the FDA, you want to do the most viable product first. Mm-hmm. Keep it simple and then build on complexity from there. Yeah. So if you know anyone who is an engineer or a scientist or a physician that you think might be interested in something like this, we have an ongoing relationship with Mayo Clinic in Rochester where we meet with an oncologist as a product advisor. We just have a second agreement with Mayo where we're joined their program called Accelerate. And what that's going to do is allow us to look at patient records, to query them, to understand how many cancer patients, how many are on chemo, how many have ports, how many don't have ports, how many are hospitalized because of febrile neutropenia. And then that data query will allow us to build the hardware, the software, and the data part of our company.
Interesting. That's awesome.
So you just spoke of your connection with Mayo. I guess I'm just thinking this is maybe similar to some of the other, I'll say, startup companies. We see none are like this with a smart port, but others are more like genetic testing or proteomic testing or something like that. Right. One of the issues I think that we've seen as patients is just physician interest in using this, right? That the technology is cool and can tell you a lot of stuff, and like I could go out and do some of these tests myself, but then like finding a provider who wants to do something with it is kind of a nightmare. So I guess I'm curious if you're working on developing that part of this as you scale up, because in my opinion that's a huge part to actually making it viable is having that provider interest and approval.
Absolutely. So thanks for bringing that up. Strange thing, physicians are people too, and they don't really like to change their workflow, and they're under a lot of pressure, and they're under a lot of, and even in cancer, they're very rigid protocols that they have to adhere to. So as we're speaking with our Mayo counterpart and this dashboard that I'm sharing with you, we really don't want to add another dashboard or another button to electronic medical records. We want to provide the same data points, but they're longitudinal, but they're still provided at a point in time. So a physician can see an ANC over time, body temperature over time, heart rate over time, which is a data set they don't collect, but we know they don't want the data exhaust. They don't want to be bombarded with another piece of a dashboard, another app, or another data point. So first go to market is being very focused on what do physicians already do and what data points do they already leverage?
What is the
ahead,
what's the size of the data set you need to prove that this is accurate within the acceptable range? I mean, is it 100,000 users or million users? I mean, it's again lab to lab calibration. Others happen, and the things have to be. If the data is to be used for medical decisions, there has to be an accuracy band, right? And what does it take to prove that this will have the accuracy band?
So it sounds like you should be our advisor because you're asking all the right questions. So because we're planning to go to the FDA as a 510K, there's a chance that it could be deemed a de novo, which would mean we'd have to do human clinical trials. And we think 50 patients or less, and it's really out to prove efficacy. Because what we're showing around the device, excuse me, but your question is about accuracy. What we're showing now with our benchtop prototype, comparing it to flow cytometry and Coulter counting, is a 0.85% correlation index. So we're already seeing accuracy compared to a gold standard.
Okay, and you have to. That's fine. I'll hold off on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
we can have a much. Sounds like we can have a much longer conversation.
Sure.
Amit, I know you you're an engineer and you work at Micron Technology. So you must be kind of knowledgeable in this area. I just, for my curiosity, what do you do?
I mean, I'm a computer engineer. Actually did a lot of the chip design and development for a lot of products in the past. In later part of my career, I was running businesses and marketing and business, but I'm a computer engineer by training for actually electronics and semiconductor.
Thank you. So Kathy, I always want to help, and I think we all want to help startups like yours get to market. Just turning it back to you, what are the biggest challenges you face? Often it's the quick question is, any angel investors that want to give us some money? And Richard Anders was on here earlier, and I may have connected you with him. He's MassMed Angel, so he's my angel investor guy. Or it could be you have technical questions, or you could need, places to test your technology or your first customers. What are the in the near term? What are your your immediate hot button needs?
Thank you for asking. So I'm pitching to Mass Angels tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So that's good. And then we're also in due diligence for a lead investor out of the Bay Area. And finding a lead investor is one of the hardest things you can do in the startup world, especially with the war in Ukraine and interest rates, and VCs are just kind of gathering up their dollars. But the lead investor we're in diligence with is a group that's invested heavily in cancer. And when they found out about what we were doing, they loved it because, this is going to sound funny, they didn't like remote patient monitoring. And they didn't like remote patient monitoring because people had to wear stuff or plug stuff in or log stuff, and patient adherence is terrible. So when they found out that our device is passively collecting data because it's implanted in the body, then that's what made them sign up for being in diligence and looking for a lead investor. And so what we're looking for, yes, money is always an issue, but more importantly, in very short order, we're looking for a senior lead engineer with optical engineering and medical device experience. So we're putting that out in the universe, that we're looking for quality, qualified humans to join our team on the engineering side.
So Kathy, maybe we can connect offline. I mean, I've advised a lot of the startup companies, done due diligence on many, invested in many for companies, and obviously I have interest in this space personally. So we can talk and see how I can be of any help.
Yeah, we'll get Brad to connect us. Thank you very much. And I know we're almost at the end of our time, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about exercise and to talk about technology. It's a very rich hour with a breadth of conversations and topics. And in my deck, I am available. My number and my email is there if you need to follow up for any reason. Happy to chat with you.